Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Man Podcast. My name is Rory Paquette. You guys already know that, but I am still and always your very grateful host. Thank you so much for joining us today, as you have been doing every day for a very long time. Folks, when we made the move to 5 days, you folks just turned out in numbers. I love it so much. I love all of you. You have supported our movement. You've supported our guests. I hope one of the reasons that you are as active as you are is because we keep bringing on powerful men like what we have today, who have just incredibly powerful stories. And if that is the case, then we're in luck because I'm going to keep doing that. And then you folks can keep messaging and commenting and subscribing the way you have. The fact that you're out there doing what you're doing means I can sit here and keep doing what I'm doing. So I'm eternally grateful. You guys all know what's coming next. If you're a friend of the program, you know it's time to pay a couple of bills. So let me take a sip of my preferred beverage. Man, just made a new one right before this episode. Mm, holy moly. Fantastic right there. And you guys know what we're drinking. That's right. It's Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Deep, dark, rich, bold, and beautiful, just like my wife. You got to check them out. They brew a mean cup of joe. It's absolutely fantastic. They do all the right things for all the right reasons, and they support veterans, which is a huge reason why we support them the way that we do. You guys all know how we support veterans here on the Power Man podcast and how all of you veterans out there are so important to us. Folks, Freedom Hill Coffee at Freedom Hill Coffee on Instagram. Check them out. Tell them Power of Man sent you. Now, I'm going to get one more sip of this, and I will be drinking it through the whole episode so I can keep up with this young buck who's on the other side of the table from me. There we go. All right, folks, this gentleman's intro is going to blow you away. All right, so get ready, put on your seatbelts, and let's get ready for an awesome show. Author of 23 books, the founder of the Johnson Leadership Group, LLC. He's an independent certified coach, a mentor, a speaker with the John Maxwell team. Uh, his current book series, he's an author. Current book series is Leadership with a Servant's Heart, talking about creating next generation leaders around the globe. This gentleman is all about leadership and building leaders. And most importantly, he is a father and a husband, married 32 years with three sons. Congratulations for that again. Please welcome to the show, Kevin Wayne Johnson. Kevin, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well this morning. Thank you so much for the invitation to come on board. I'm really, really excited to be with you today.
I'm excited to have you. I couldn't even believe this when I was writing the bio up and taking notes. I'm like, really? And I kept checking. I'm like, really? And I kept checking because usually I have two or three highlighted points. And with you, I just kept writing. And I'm going, wait a minute. There's no way one guy did all this stuff. Uh, Kevin, please tell everybody, who is Kevin Wayne Johnson? What are you about? What brings you here today, brother?
Well, listen, I am a native of Richmond, Virginia. My family, all the way back to my great grandparents on my paternal side and my maternal side, reside from there. And although I'm not living in Richmond anymore, I find myself going back quite a bit, staying in touch with all of my high school mates and also my college mates because I attended Virginia Commonwealth University. Simply put, the way that I introduce myself is pretty consistent in the marketplace. I'm the son of a U.S. Marine, and my mother worked for the federal government. And I followed her into the federal government, and I stayed for 34 years before I retired. I don't have any sisters. I have one brother, and he's 3.5 years younger than I am, and he was born with a mental disability. And so my dad, being a Marine, was away a lot when we were young, Vietnam twice, Okinawa, Japan once, fighting in America's wars. And I learned as a little boy how to help to raise my young brother. I learned all about leadership. I learned about negotiation, fighting, being an advocate, respecting, caring, supporting, and loving my little brother because that neurological challenge that he had kept him from being able to really fend for himself. Fast forward, after I graduate from college, I meet this young lady. We begin to date. We fall in love. We get married. And from our union, we have three sons. Oldest son came into our life at the age of 3 months. We adopted him into our family. His natural parents were very, very young, and they realized they couldn't quite take care of him. And we didn't want him to go through the foster care system. So we brought him into our family. And then right after that, our middle son came. And then 15 months later, our baby boy came. And interestingly enough, our baby boy did everything that little children do. They crawl, they jump, they skip, they swing in the swing set, they ride in the wagon, they play ball. He cried, he laughed, but he never talked, never said a word. And we realized right around the age of 2 that something was really different and we need to check it out. And lo and behold, we have him diagnosed and it came back autism. So I have two choices, right? Get upset. Why me? I've been here before. I don't deserve this. Or step into my role as a father and again take care of, support, love, respect, honor, and advocate for my youngest son. So that's my journey. That's been my life. And everything I learned about leadership in the home as a brother and as a father, I've taken it into the marketplace to share with others. So that's who Kevin Wayne Johnson is.
My goodness, that's a lot to unpack. I had no idea about your son. I didn't realize you were an autism advocate on top of everything else. But I love your attitude about it and the way that you approached it. And I have a feeling that's how you approach everything.
Absolutely. I'm a see the glass half full kind of guy. And when things don't go well or in accordance with our own plan, I tell everybody, take those lemons, make yourself some lemonade, and keep moving forward. That's kind of how I look at life.
That's beautiful. Now, in terms of your journey, you had, what was it here, 34 years in the federal government. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yourself. And so you followed in your parents' footsteps doing that. How does somebody spend 34 years in the federal government and then get into being, a speaker and a mentor and independent coach and all this for leadership? I'm curious about, what that was like and what the transition was for you.
Yeah, the answer resides in your question. Lots of coaches, lots of champions, lots of sponsors pouring into me from an early age. They saw something in me that we can't see in ourselves. It's called potential. And they pulled me along the way and just kind of helped to get those obstacles out the way, helped me to navigate those roads to become a frontline leader in my 20s, mid-level leader in my 30s. And by the time I got into my 40s, I was already a senior level leader. And it turned out to be a phenomenal career. The pay wasn't bad. The benefits were even better. And you also accrued leave. So annual leave and sick leave was looking pretty good. And that was my motivation to stay. So turned out to be a great career. It's kind of a funny story though. One day I looked around and everyone looked a little bit younger than me. And I said, it's time to move on. So turned out to be a great, great opportunity for almost 3.5 decades to serve people and no regrets whatsoever.
Well, that's incredible. Now, you brought up something a minute ago that I'd love to touch on. You said that you had all of these people coming in contact with you, pouring into you, seeing your potential. I know that that's something that, a lot of people wish that they had in their lives. Was it your family? Was it your job with the government? What was it that sort of put you in a position where these people were able to see you in the first place, to see the potential that you had?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things, but I would say first and foremost, how we carry ourselves, because people are always watching, how we treat others, how we're able to deliver a presentation, how well quality of a product we deliver. I think it's a combination of all of the above. I think it also gets into grooming and how you dress. It's the total package that people are watching. And oftentimes leaders, they see someone with some great potential and they just voluntarily choose to just sort of develop them and equip them and help to prepare them for what's coming at the next level. Now, in some instances, I would ask. So I would see someone at a level above me that I really admired and I really respected. And I would just be bold enough to ask them, do you have a few minutes where we can talk? Or can I have some lunch with you? And ultimately, the question would always turn to, would you please mentor me? Would you be my mentor? And more times than not, they would say yes, because I call it the power of the invite. When you invite people, more times than not, they'll say yes. So that's exactly how it happened. But just being very selective, not asking everybody, but asking just a handful to give some time and some effort to help me so that when it's all said and done, I can then turn around and help others. And that's exactly how it happened.
I absolutely love what you just did with the answer to that question. Absolutely love what you did with that. You took that question, and the answer you gave was 100%. Um, I took control. I caused it. I took responsibility for myself. And I mean, from the get-go, that's how you answered that entire question. That seems to be permeating through everything that I've looked up about you and about leadership in general. Um, how important is that?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with how you and I see the world through our lens. And my heart is always in a mode in which I see the best in people, even if they don't see it in themselves, and even if others don't see it in them. But a lot of how I move and groove in my space has everything to do with my upbringing from the time that I was 3.5 years old, having to step into the gap to help my brother. And then wash, rinse, and repeat again as an adult and as a father with my youngest son. And what I've learned over the years is that when people are different, or if people are not on the same level, or don't quite have the aptitude or the ability, I've noticed that they tend to get left behind. And I just choose to be a difference maker and using the gifts that I have and the abilities and the knowledge that I have in terms of the work that I do to put myself in a position to always want to help, always want to provide some hope, and always want to care that a person has shown up. That's not a universal concept with everybody, and I get it. We're all different, but that's how I move. That's my modus operandi in terms of everything that I do. And because I operate like that, I'm often able to see a little bit further into the future than maybe others are. I'm kind of looking at 3, 4 years from now, what can be, what can happen, what can exist. Will it happen? Will it exist unless I take action? So that's kind of how I'm built. That's how I'm wired. I understand my style of how I communicate, how I handle conflict, how I work with people, my own leadership style. And it always comes to bear because, what's on the inside is going to always be seen on the outside. You can't really hide it. And so that's what really keeps me motivated and inspired and encouraged in every journey that I take on.
Love it. Love it. That's beautiful to look at things that way. Kevin, if you don't mind me asking, um, yeah, we're going to get into leadership here very quickly, but as we do, I've been a coach for a very long time, coached youth sports forever with my sons. I had several young men who I had the privilege of coaching who were autistic, on the spectrum. I always found that I had to um, vary my coaching, my leadership, in order to make sure that those individuals got what they needed. I'm curious, I mean, on a much more, acute situation with it being your son, how have you had to alter your leadership practices and things like that in order to make sure that you're doing what you need to do for your son?
Just being more patient and more understanding. There's a saying that I learned many, many years ago from one of my pastors. He's no longer with us, but it just always stayed with me because it's so true. And it simply says that teaching is repeating until learning takes place.
Repeating till it takes place.
Translation, we're all in a different place as it relates to being able to absorb the instructions, the directions, and the guidance that we give. And some of us can pick up on it right away and run with it and do great things. But some of us, it may take 3, 4, 5, 6 times to repeat it until we can actually see visually that that particular person actually gets it and understands and can run with it. And so patience and persistence has been a great teacher for me, starting in the home and then taking it out into the marketplace and into the community. And what's really interesting about the young men and women, and also the adults that are on the spectrum, they may have these challenges as it relates to aptitude and acumen, but they're geniuses in other areas. It's really amazing. Memory, arts, cooking. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It's absolutely amazing. So they may be different, but at the same time, they're the same. It's just that they have different strengths and different areas of development, just like every one of us. It's really an amazing thing. So, yeah, of course, I've been an advocate for men and women, boys and girls that are on the spectrum really all of my life because prior to autism being the official diagnosis, I do believe long before then, there were many men and women who had the exact same thing. They just had a different name for it.
I could not agree more. For folks who are listening to this only and are not watching the video version of this, they're really missing out because they didn't get to see you just absolutely light up when you started talking about your kids and stuff.
Right.
So I applaud you for that because that was so authentic. It just made me smile. I loved every minute of that. So thank you for taking on that question too. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it very much.
Absolutely.
Let's dive into this plethora of information you have on leadership and these other things. I am curious to know about the current book series, Leadership with a Servant's Heart. Maybe you want to start there and just kind of launch into what is it you do in this leadership realm?
Yeah, so it's really a teaching tool and it's also a resource. So, in addition to all of the other information that you and I get around this timely topic of leadership, it's an opportunity to help to equip and to develop and inspire those that want to move into leadership and those of us that are already in leadership. Some additional tools that we can pull out of our toolbox when we need it. What's interesting about this series and what makes it stand out in the marketplace, and I'm able to get it into the stores. So, Books a Million, um, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, and of course, all of the online outlets and the automation and the technologies out there as well. Amazon. But there's so many others as well. The reason is because on the cover with my graphic designer, when I cast the vision, I want all of my readers, before they even turn to page one, to recognize that what we're talking about is both the mind and the heart. Leadership with a servant's heart will always have an image of someone, a human, where we're emphasizing the heart as well as the mind. Because as you know, in the mind is the acumen, the intelligence, and the subject matter expertise. But in the heart resides the respect, the care, the value, the honor, and the unconditional love for the people that we are leading. So, where we can align what's in the mind with what's in the heart is what makes the better leader. Because you and I are expected to show up knowing our stuff. That's how we get credibility. It's sort of assumed that because you're in that role, you know your stuff. You've sort of been there and you've done that. Now, there are some exceptions. We know some people get moved into their role and they don't really know what they're doing. But that seems to be the exception and not the norm. But what people really want to know when their leader shows up is what is unspoken. And that is, does this leader care that I'm here? Does this leader provide some hope? And will this leader help? And if we can put a check mark next to those three, then we are well on our way to understanding what leadership with a servant heart is all about. I deliberately did not use the term servant leadership that was introduced into our marketplace back in 1970. I specifically did not reference that term, although in essence, we're kind of talking about the same thing, but we're putting much more emphasis on the heart and much more emphasis on the mind, because where those two can align, that's what this book series is all about. And that's the difference maker, both in the cover as well as the content.
Now, in terms of if people want to check out this book, if they're wondering, can this guy actually write? 16 literary awards for crying out loud,
Oh, yeah.
and a two-time bestseller on Amazon. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because really, I
Well,
thought it was a typo.
here's a little. This is not trademarked. It's not copyrighted. It's really not that big of a challenge to have your new release, new book become number one in any given category on Amazon. It's just the technique and the marketing strategy to make it happen. But what brings me the most pride and what really makes me light up and proud is when you can get an endorsement by all of the different local, regional, and national, and a couple of international book reviewers that do this for a living to say 2 thumbs up, 5 stars. That's what gives me the most joy, because I know I'm now meeting the need of all of my readers and all of the book lovers, because it's endorsed by organizations that are reputable in the marketplace. But the Amazon number one, yeah, okay, that's good, but it's just if you learn the marketing piece to it, anybody can do it. So hopefully that's encouraging for all of your listeners out there that are thinking about writing a new book. Oh yeah, you can make it number one on Amazon.
Sure. I love how you're just downplaying the whole thing. Like it's just no big deal. I mean, that's wonderful. This humble thing is great. I love it. But when it's 16 little literary awards going alongside of it, you're doing something right, my friend.
Well, thank all of our readers out there around the globe that have been following me for a while in this concept. Because you have to remember now, in addition to writing the books, I also have a platform because I am a speaker. I have a platform because I own a company where we do leadership training and executive coaching. So we have different people in the marketplace that follow the work that we do, and that always helps, of course. But I tell authors all the time, always work on your craft, get better and better, make it relatable and make it applicable, because it's all about connecting. It's about connecting with your audience. And when you write, it's about connecting with your audience. And as long as you do that, the will always want to know more and learn more. And that's what we're here to do.
Nice. Very nice. So, all right, let's get into some of these other highlights here. You founded the Johnson Leadership Group. So you're not just out there talking about leadership. You've founded your business based on it, and you're also associated with the John Maxwell team. So tell me how all that comes about.
So, again, kind of referencing very briefly my 34-year career, I'm the type of that's always sort of thinking ahead. So 5 years from retirement, I'm because I still have energy and I still want to make a difference in the world. So I connected with the Maxwell leadership team in terms of their certification program. So I became certified as a trainer, speaker, mentor, and coach through his organization. He is a long-standing number one leadership guru across the globe. And I really, really respect him as a man of faith as well. And he built a really, really wonderful organization. So going back to 2016 is when I got involved and I became certified through his program. Other people in the marketplace that I also followed were Zig Ziglar before we lost him back in 2012.
Mhm.
And then I also followed Pastor Miles Monroe, one of the original five founders of the Faith Bahamas Ministries International there in Nassau, Bahamas, a really, really brilliant business mind, a pastor as well, and we lost him in 2014. So John Maxwell is still here. He's still pouring into us. He's my senior mentor. I get a chance to be in his presence, pretty frequently, not always in person, but oftentimes virtually, just kind of hearing what he has to say and taking that information back out into the community and the marketplace.
Nice. Nice. Okay. There are a couple of notes that I've got here, and there were a couple of things that in terms of the leadership that you teach, that I definitely wanted to ask you about, and there were a couple of interesting nuggets. The first one was you say there's what are the top three values, I guess, that lead to leadership?
Yeah, you mean in terms of personal values?
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I always encourage us as leaders because leadership is not tied to our title or our position. It should be all about who we are.
Hmm.
What we value in life oftentimes dictates how we solve problems and how we make decisions. So I learned many, many years ago that my top three values, we call those core values, are character, integrity, and respect. That's what really drives me. And every person under the sound of my voice has top one, two, or three values as well. They kind of have you to navigate the different roads that you travel and are really out there in the forefront, helping you to decide on what direction to go. So just doing my absolute best, not being perfect, but just doing my best to be a man of character, to show some form of integrity along the way. And then, of course, the respect piece comes from helping to raise my little brother and then raising my sons. Because I've always taught them from the time that they were ankle high that the best way, and quite frankly, the only way to thank me, anything that I've ever done for you, is to be a good husband and to be a good father. Don't you ever leave your children, and you be faithful to the woman that you marry. That's how you thank me, right? So they owe me a whole lot of money, but I told them you don't have to pay me back. It's all good. As a matter of fact, if I did ask you to pay me back, you wouldn't be able to because it's so much. I tease my sons. I tell my oldest son, you owe me $578,614.66. Did you know that? That's how much I spent on you since you were a baby. And his eyes light up. I said, but you don't have to pay me back. Just make sure you marry the right woman and stay with her. And when you have your children, you make sure you're always there for your children, always. And that's how you thank me. So the core values really dictate how you and I travel the roads, really throughout our lifetime. And that's what it's all about. Very, very important.
Nice. You mentioned earlier speaking with a pastor.
Yes.
If you and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, you can just say, "Hey, I prefer not to talk about that." But what role has your faith played in all of this?
Oh, big time. So my maternal grandmother, we just affectionately called her Granny. 4'11", right? But had a booming voice. She was a devout Seventh Day Adventist when we were little boys and little girls. All my cousins, we were growing up in Richmond, Virginia. So her Sabbath was on Saturday. And it's not unusual that the grandchildren would go to visit the grandparents on a Saturday. But in her house, when we go to visit, we have to sit down. No, no running around, no making a whole lot of noise because it's the Sabbath. And I would see Granny, praying. She'd be on her knees, she was praying. And I knew there was something distinctively different, but this was long before I really understood what this was all about. But it's kind of an interesting story. I was about 8 years old, and she told me that I would be a preacher when I grew up. And this was long before I had any clue about what she was talking about. But lo and behold, many, many years later, as I moved into adulthood, That's exactly what happened. I accepted the call into the ministry. Initially, my wife and I were ordained as deacons. This was way back in 2001. And then I went on to later on being ordained as a minister and have served the local church as either a deacon, an associate pastor, or a senior pastor for the past 26 years, and still do a lot of that work as well. I don't lead a church anymore because of the season of life that I'm in, but I'm still very actively involved and very active. It's been a wonderful journey, and absolutely love it. Wouldn't have done it any other way.
Well, so you've been, on the roll, on the path to being, of leadership and public speaking and, leading the flock,
Yeah,
for a long time. This is a
yeah.
natural thing for you almost.
It's natural. It just comes natural. Yeah, it's as natural as when my sons ask me for money, you know?
I'm sensing a recurring theme here.
Yeah.
They're getting a little more expensive as they get older,
Oh,
huh?
well, they tried it. So I say no, but then they go to mom, right? And then so what I do is sort of under the cover, I check the bank account and I see, oh boy, there's been an automatic transfer. So they got the money after all, but they didn't get it from me because I
Yeah.
say no. Go get a second job.
You always lose the fight with mom. Always, always lose the fight with mom. I understand.
Yep.
I love that. Another nugget here was you said something about the missing ingredient with most leaders. And as I sat there and thought about it, I mean, I came up with several that I thought could be the missing ingredient, but I'm like, I wonder where Kevin's going to take this today. So,
Yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
think is the missing ingredient with most leaders that are out there?
Yeah. That's always an interesting one. The missing ingredient to me is also what I described as the most underutilized tool in the toolbox of a leader, very much underutilized, and that is delegation. Because most leaders view delegation and treat delegation one sided, and that is we're getting work off of our plate, we're lightening our load. And that is true. But the real intent behind delegating work is to develop your people. It's a developmental tool. And what happens is that you and I send a subliminal message, people on our team, people on our staff, any of our direct reports. We're sending a message when we delegate work to them that I trust you, I have confidence in you, and I have faith in you. And that is a real phenomenal way to build people up and to really help them to feel good about themselves. So if we use delegation with the intent of developing other people, that's a win. And then, of course, we are lightening our load and we are able to get some additional work off of our plate so we can pay close attention to other things that are going on. But it's underutilized as a tool because we tend to think of it only as an opportunity to get work off of our plate. And while that is true, if you also combine that with what you're doing to help your team to develop and get better and get more exposure and visibility, then it's powerful. So that is always what I think about when it comes to that missing ingredient. We have to switch the intent behind why we're delegating work, and it makes a big difference. Watch people thrive and watch them reach new heights by taking that approach to delegation. It definitely works.
Nice. Nice. Another point on here, and I know that you have a hard stop, so I know you can't give me all of these, and also I don't want you to give away the secret sauce. I mean, if people want to know some of this, they can buy the book, also. But you talk about the 15 invariable laws of growth, and are there maybe one or two that you think really stand out, or that maybe you want to make sure you drive home today to this audience?
Yeah, the big one. The big one. There are 15 invaluable laws of growth, both personal growth and professional growth. But here's the big one. Leaders are learners. So just because we've reached the pinnacle of whatever it is that we are striving toward doesn't mean that we should lose our thirst and our hunger to continue to learn more. And that's such an important piece. There's always something new to learn. Look at how technology has advanced. Look at where we are now with AI. Look at how far health practices have advanced. Pay close attention to what's going on in the community, what's going on socially, what's going on economically, and what's going on politically. There's always something new to learn. It was really interesting yesterday when we got the news about the newly elected pope, and during his opening comments, he spoke three different languages. There's always something that you and I can learn. So leaders are learners. That's the biggest nugget because we're always growing personally and professionally. It really never stops. And when we get to that place in our lives where we figure out, I don't need to learn anything else, that's when things will not continue to move forward. You'll get stale and you'll get left behind as well.
Nice. As you talk about these things, like the 15 variable laws, the top three values, missing ingredients, as you're doing public speaking and as you're writing the books, are you talking to, men who are trying to personally grow? Are you talking to business leaders? Maybe it's all of the above. Do you have a focus and is there a difference?
It's all of the above because when it's all said and done, it's really difficult to separate the person from the type of work that they do. They're the same person. So whether I'm talking to a mixed audience of men and women, or just a group of men, and every now and again just a group of women, or young people, high school or below, or even at the college level, because I'm a visiting professor at my alma mater, Virginia Commonwealth University School of Business. It's all about really focusing in on them, knowing what their desired outcome is, and then making whatever it is we're talking about, making it applicable and making it relatable. That's how you go about connecting with people. So I recognize as a speaker that you can't really separate the person from the work that they do. It's the same person. And we all have challenges and we all have issues and we all have circumstances that we're trying to get beyond. And there's something that you can say that will kind of uplift people. So from that perspective, it's the same. But knowing what their desired outcome is in advance is always a big help. So I do ask the audience, what is it that you're looking to get out of this?
Hmm.
So that I make sure that I address that and make it very, very applicable to that moment and to that audience.
Nice. Okay. So you're meeting people where they are, so to
Exactly.
speak. Good
You
deal.
have to. You have to. You have to do three things when you're talking to people. And also for those that are out there in your listening audience that want to write, whether it's an article, a blog, a book, you name it, you have to do three things. You have to connect with people, have to find common ground with people, and you have to build bridges with people. If those three things are happening, then you're well on your way to delivering an effective message, whether it's verbal or in writing. But if you're not connecting, and if you're not building bridges, and if you're not finding common ground, it's really not going to be memorable, and it may not even be applicable as a part of what you're saying. You're talking, but it's not really resonating, and it kind of defeats the purpose.
Interesting. You brought up a couple times talking about young people, and so I'd love to kind of delve into that for just a minute. The How do you view? I mean, you do this for a living, so I mean, I can sit over here and have my opinion and my perspective as a husband, a father, a leader of my movement. But from what you do, which is all about leadership, How do you view where young people are today? It seems to me a little bit like there's kind of a lack of, either leadership or wanting to. Maybe I'm not seeing that. So, what's the state of young folks today? What do they need, and maybe why?
Yeah, so remember now, people do what people see.
Hmm.
And so our young people today are in a place where they're processing so much information that's coming at them all the time that perhaps our generation didn't experience. Constant television, satellite radio, internet. I mean, 24/7, 365, and in a leap year, 366. Just constant information and then having to make decisions. So I always have a conversation with the younger generation around just sharing with them what I did and how I responded when I was their age. I'm putting them in my shoes, and at the same time, I'm stepping into their shoes. Say, when I was 17, this is what I did. When I was 24, this is what I did. Again, what we're trying to do, we're trying to connect, build some common ground, and build some bridges. And when we can connect with them and meet them where they are, we're going to be much more effective. Now, we live in a nation where we don't talk to each other enough. This is across the board, right? Doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, men, women, educated, only have a high school degree, work corporate America or work in the government. As a nation, we don't talk to each other enough. So we end up making a lot of assumptions about, in our conversation, the younger people.
Sure.
They are much more intelligent, much more energetic, and much more creative than we think. But we just have to have a conversation with them. And so that's why I'm really delighted to be connected with my alma mater and that they asked me to come down and do some in-person teaching in the business school because they are 18, 19, 20-year olds and they have a chance to connect with somebody who's in his 60s and we find that we have common ground. And so I encourage all of us, all of your listeners, to take the time, have more conversations with our younger people and hear them out and kind of then figure out what the next step is going to be and not make an assumption based upon what we see or how they might be acting. That's always something that I leave with everybody just to encourage us to talk more. That's what we really need to do.
That's such a great idea, especially, I mean, in theory, but also in actual practical application.
Yep.
Like, let's all stop getting so angry and just have a conversation. Seems
Yep.
seems to be a little bit of a lost art.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I'm watching people on the highways and how they're driving, and I'm like, wow, where is all this pent up anger? And then, of course, because of human behavior, there's always somebody who responds to the aggressive driver. And all that does, it takes it to a whole nother level. And I'm in my car and I'm watching this, and I said, can't we just have a conversation? Because I guarantee you, you all probably have something in common and just calm down a little bit, right? But that's where we are. And what we can do is the best that we can do, one person at a time. We're not going to reach everybody, but do the best we can with the sphere of influence that we have and try to be difference makers and get people to calm down a little bit and talk to each
I like that. I like that. Let me throw this in there real quick. You and I are both fathers. We have a lot of fathers who listen to this broadcast. What can fathers do to foster that idea of leadership, becoming a leader, not reacting, necessarily to everything, but being the leader who maybe sets the standard for acting with our young people?
other. Yeah, so remember now, our sons and daughters are always watching. And more times than not, they don't say anything. They're just kind of observing. They want to make sure that what you say is consistent with what you do. And they want to They want to see if you're actually going to be where you say you're going to be. And they want to know if you're going to be on time. Are you going to keep your word? Remember, I said it about maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. People do what people see. So, what you want to see in your son and daughter, be that example and be that role model. Because that's what we are. That's exactly what we are. And everything starts in the home, and then we take it out into the community and into the marketplace. So, since people do what they see, be mindful that they're watching you and be what you want them to become, because that's where it starts. That is no guarantee that it's going to happen, but at least it's a beginning. That's where you start to plant those seeds so that one day they'll germinate and they'll grow up. But that's just a simple model that I've used. I don't have any. I have a goddaughter and two god granddaughters, but we didn't have a daughter, but we have those three sons. And I just always, in addition to telling them or having a conversation with them, I would also model it. Okay, I want you to be a great father and a great husband. How do you do that? Follow my example. Always be there for your children. Have a smile. Have a great conversation. Be courteous. Show them the way. And I want you to be a great husband. Well, how do you do that? You watch how I treat your mom, how I talk to your mom, how I love your mom, how I'm faithful to your mom. That's how you do it. And so now that you've seen it, now you know to go out and you repeat that.
Love it. Thank you
Yeah.
for that answer because I know that was a little off the cuff, and sort of out of left field, but you knocked it out of the park. I knew you would.
Yeah. If, if
So,
if you if you hit it out the left field, then you can catch it and then bring it back to center field.
right. All right. I mean, I honestly, I could talk to you for another hour, but I know that you've got some place to be. I want to thank you for giving us the time you've given us today because it's been unbelievable. You're fantastic. I love having you on the show. Let me end and kind of wrap this up with, giving you the floor for the last couple of minutes. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about? Anything that you want to drive home a little more, or any leave behind sort of last piece nugget you want to leave for the audience? Last couple minutes of yours, sir.
Well, you're a phenomenal host, and this is a great, great podcast. Again, I'm just thankful for the invitation and being able to say yes and spend some good quality time. This has been some good quality time. So from that perspective, I thank you. But parting words would be, just one more time that leaders are learners, always have a thirst and a hunger to want to learn more and just be the person that you want to see in others, whether it's a family, friend, a neighbor, your social and civic organizations, your workplace, in your church. I have a saying that I leave with everybody, and I know we've had a number of these during our time together. But wherever you go, there you are. So just be consistent, be genuine, be authentic, and help to make this world to be a much better place. So those would be my departing words.
Well, I love that, and we'll just let that mic drop right there, folks. Um, uh, Author, leader, husband, father, Kevin Wayne Johnson. Kevin, thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you as well.
Folks, this has been another episode of the Power Man Podcast. I hope that you enjoyed another powerful man with a powerful message coming on here today, talking about leadership, talking about how you've got value and instilling that value in your children. These are great words. These are more than words. These are ideals and they're things that we need to put into practice. Please keep in mind the reason we do this is because we want to remind all of you that you are worth it. You do have value, and at some point, you just have to believe it. Until next time.